Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Deplorable Knitter, and I've got Neil and Anne here today with us, and we're going to do a little bit of a chat about Unsafe Space and some of the nonsense that's been going on around that. So, Anne, I guess maybe you want to kind of get going on this because you've got the written timeline from what I understand. So,
Yeah, and part of this too is that, Unsafe Space for a long time has been everyone's favorite knitting podcast. It's okay, we know, because they first came in and they interviewed Maria Tuscan when that came out. They covered, the sort of first wave of cancellations before even the Ravelry thing with Nathan Taylor and that whole story. So, and then afterwards, they interviewed Marie Buskey. They interviewed Lil Ragamuffin, so that's more sewing wars. But it all comes together.
Yeah, they've gotten into the fiber arts. I had the pleasure of speaking with Carrie last summer. That was a pretty exciting deal. Neil just talked to Carrie recently, which is why we're all here together. So
a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, on her program show, on her new channel.
Her new channel.
Right, and we mentioned on our last live that she no longer is with Unsafe Space. And it's gotten to the point where before it was just kind of okay, this happened, and now it's got nasty on Twitter. So that's kind of why we're talking about it now.
Yeah, we originally we were kind of staying out of it because, we're not really anybody, but now it's kind of fair game. Carter went nuts over the weekend, so we're here to talk about it.
It's like watching mum and dad divorce, isn't it? It's like, I imagine, say, if you two fell out and you two split, it'd be like, oh my God, who do I follow?
Who's telling the truth? What's happening?
I know, which is also like behind the scenes, we're looking at each other like, don't leave me.
Well,
no, anyways, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We were making light of it. It's quite serious and it's very sad, actually. It's been, I imagine it's been upsetting for both of them, regardless of who's, in the right or the wrong,
Well, but anybody who's been in a relationship knows how it feels when that relationship ends. Whether you wanted it to end or not, it doesn't make it feel better. It's still something that people have to work through. It's still upsetting, and since we are friendly with Carrie, we didn't want to get in on it because it's hard. I can imagine it's hard for her. She spent a long time helping build the channel, and now she's kind of starting over, and so it's got to be difficult. But yeah, once he kind of went off the deep end this weekend, and so it appears that all bets are off. And so, Anne, when did things first start?
Okay, so timeline-wise, so the first sort of public mentioning of this, we start with February 21st, Covfefe Break, which is which is a Monday chat show. Covfefe Break was canceled March 4th. There was a public statement that Carrie had left the show and to follow her on her new channel. It's also interesting that Carter had canceled some of his shows in the interim. But at this point, Unsafe Space still used her image to promote YouTube and their website until March 22nd.
Yeah, so after it was almost a month after her leaving that they continued to use her thing, which seems slightly shady to me.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And also, her picture was still on Subscribestar until April 1st.
Wow.
So that one finally came down.
So that was a week ago. Okay. Come on.
Yeah, that's like a band, isn't it? Having, a duo, keeping the other person in the duo, even though you've split up and putting them on the album cover. That doesn't seem quite right to me, does it? It seems a bit odd.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Based on the different rumors I've heard, it appears that he was the one who didn't want to be involved so much anymore. I mean, that's the vibe I got from the letter and from things he said. And the letter I'm talking about is the cease and desist his lawyer sent, which we'll cover shortly. But so if Anna and I broke up and I didn't want her here, I'm pretty sure that I would be fully embracing the fact that I'm deplorable knitter and Ann Pinkava is gone. Like, you know what I mean?
You'd have a photo of
her
behind you, though, wouldn't you?
I have what?
Keep Anne's, the fans of Anne on board.
I mean, yeah, I guess you don't want to offend anybody, but if it's your choice and you don't want them, it seems shady to keep their stuff up for 2 months. But that's just me.
Right. Right. Even amicably. Oh, okay. If you wanted to leave and have your own thing, it's like, well, why is my picture still up?
Yeah.
Is it a baby come back? Because it doesn't sound like a baby come back.
Did Carter announce that she'd left, or did Carrie announce that she'd left?
It was Carter who announced it on the show first.
Right.
After she had been gone, though.
She had not been on the show. I mean, a couple of the shows were canceled, but she had not been on the show for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw one of the shows without Carrie, and he just came across as being really angry. And some of the guests actually said, why are you being so angry? And not the guests, sorry, the people in the comments were saying that to him. And it was very odd. And so there was obviously, I knew something was wrong, but at that point I didn't know why Carrie wasn't there. So I thought, well, maybe they just, she's had a flat tire and hasn't made it or something, and he's annoyed about it. But I didn't know she'd left at that point.
Right. Yeah.
Here, Jean in the chat wants to know if this is a fact-finding episode. Yeah, we're kind of trying to talk about what we know, what's been said, and some unhinged things happened over the weekend, which is actually what prompted us to decide to do this today. So, sorry, Anne.
That's okay. Yeah, sorry, to go on. And, okay, at this point, Carrie started to say things publicly. On March 26th, she did a little post about, when your friend pushes you out the car and runs over you a couple of times and then says that you have to sign an NDA. And that is all she said right there.
I didn't see that one.
She did not name names. She just did that bit.
Yeah, and that made me laugh because not that I know how I would act in that situation, but I would like to think that's how I would handle something. Like, oh, wow, I feel like this happened and it's awful, but here's a little bit of humor with it,
Right.
And also not naming names as well, I think is quite important there.
Yeah.
She didn't say it was him, did she?
Mm-mm.
Right. Though, okay, so a couple days later, she did go on Geeks and Gamers, and we mentioned that before, and there are people looking for the links. The timestamp is in the link of the comment, and that would be the live episode. That's 95, I think. But anyways.
Yes. On episode 95, Anna and I talked about it, and there's a link if you want to find out when Carrie first publicly talked about not being on the show anymore.
Right. But it was very brief. It was less than a minute. She said that her partner stole her half of the company, and she has a new channel now. Subscribe to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and people have been really throwing her under the bus for retweeting something where somebody said, Carrie's not on Unsafe Space anymore. Go subscribe to Deprogrammed with Carrie Smith and unsubscribe to Unsafe Space. And that's where a lot of this anger is coming from, I think. And I don't know why, because she's not, well, I guess I understand why, like unsubscribe, but she didn't say it. She just retweeted it. So.
Yeah.
Deborah, we started out in the beginning with the background. You may have to rewatch that to catch up a little bit. Sorry. But we're talking about Unsafe Space and the breakup between Carrie and Carter. So.
Right. Yeah. And anyways, so she said that April 5th, she posted about her channel and said that she was going to that this was, if people were looking for another place, she's here now. She's going to build back better. And then
which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Here, and then she answered a question here, and I'm going to look this up specifically because that she kind of openly said that things went sour here too. Sorry, I should have pulled this up while I was talking.
It's all right. These things happen.
Okay, here we go. Peter Eckhard says, what happened? You and Carter made a great team and had a good chemistry at coffee break. She replied, said, "I thought so too. He wants his own thing. Instead of parting ways honorably, he stole my half of the company and effed me out on other ways that friends don't do to friends. This person that I've been grieving is not really him. I don't know him at all, turns out. That's okay. He can have everything we built together. It's just a name." And
Yep.
it's like, wow, that doesn't, I mean, with the sort of accusations later, that doesn't sound like someone who is bitterly fighting anything. It's like, well, guess that was bad. Moving on.
Yeah, I mean, when you're, from personal experience, when you're in a toxic relationship, it's hard when it ends, but then it's also good to move on. Like, even though in my situation, like, I had to move in with my mom kind of deal, it's still a better place to be than in the abusive relationship. And that's the vibe I get from her, is that she's just happy to be gone, and she's got a lot of supporters, and she's just happy to move on. And one thing that I have a group of friends that has been watching this super closely. And since Carrie has left Unsafe Space, when there's a live stream, Carter's numbers get up into like the 50s and 60s, sometimes higher, but not always. And Carrie, who has just a very small fraction of the following, gets up into the hundreds pretty much consistently. So it goes to show you who the actual people that were subscribing and watching were there for. I mean, everybody likes different things. I know people come and tell Ann and I how much they hate our show because of the way we talk about things and our viewpoints on things, and that's fine. Not everybody likes the same things, but I just find it telling that when a show with almost 40,000 people can only get 50 subscribers to watch at a time, that's crazy. Ann and I have 2.2 thousand, and there are 28 people watching us right now. So,
and thank you all for watching.
Yes, but my point is that out of 2.2 thousand subscribers, that is a pretty large fraction. When you have 40,000, that would be almost nothing. And so it goes to, he's defaming her, but I wonder what people are thinking themselves.
Well, when I've watched them before, I think Carter is the serious one, isn't he? And Carrie was the humorous one. And I think when, the way the world is at the moment, we want to see something a little bit more lighthearted, even if it's a serious subject. So I think that's why people are gravitating more towards Carrie now. And also I've noticed on Twitter with what's going on is like Carter hasn't been getting very many likes or shares or anything on the comments that he said about Carrie, which I think is interesting. So I don't think as many people support him as, well, I don't know whether he thinks they support him or not, but I don't think many people are supporting him really. I hope not.
Which might be the bitterness of all of this as well.
Right, because I get the vibe, and I can only speak for myself. When I was scheduled to go on, and I didn't know that I would only be interviewing with Carrie, I was really nervous because I was nervous about having to talk to Carter. I was always a little bit put off by him. And I can't tell you how much happier I was when I found out it was just going to be myself and Carrie talking, like for real, because some people you just don't jive with some people. And that's kind of the vibe I got from him. And I wonder if because Carrie's a little bit more welcoming and open, that's the reason the loyal followers have gone to her channel.
Well, I think she's very authentic, for want of a better word, because the thing I noticed about her is I spoke to her for, so many minutes before and after the show, and she was exactly the same person on camera as she was off camera. Same with you guys. You are both exactly as you are,
I don't know if that's good, but thanks.
Some of our opponents, shall we say, as soon as the camera's off, they probably turn into, evil bitch trog from hell, So I think, and it comes through with Carrie. You can really feel that warmth with her, which you didn't get with Carter, I don't think.
Yeah, there is that.
Also, too, I mean, even from like a regular personality thing, and not necessarily this fight, but it's like Carter is very ideological and very strict ideologically, and also very dismissive of other people. So if he's arguing about economics or whatever, and this is how it is, and there's no arguments, and he would kind of go off on people in the comments sometimes, but Carrie believed people could change, and you got the impression that Carter really couldn't. And Carrie's like, but I changed. you know,
Right.
I changed my mind. I grew,
Yeah.
I developed, and
Yeah.
I don't, and I mean, a little bit of it too, which, you know, you can't avoid mentioning, is that Carrie's a new Christian and Carter's an atheist. Well, Carrie believes that people can be changed because she was changed with Christianity, and she was also changed from a political standpoint as well. But, you know, she's seen that in her life, and she's like, okay, people can change. And, you know, maybe you don't know who will change, but there's always a chance. And Carter is very straightforward. This is how it is, my way or the highway.
Yep.
And I mean, he's, you know, knows a lot of things. He's very clever in that way, but it's something that worked well for when it worked well, and then when it didn't.
Well, and I mean, I say it about our show, we're on a much smaller scale and we don't deal with the same type of topics they do. I mean, we talk politics, but we keep it very small. But I don't think Anna and I would do as well without the other one, because Anna's very fact oriented, and I'm kind of the one that's in here going, well, I didn't watch the news, but I think everything you're saying is crap. But I think that my being on my own wouldn't work well, and Anne being so on the facts would also, you know, you need to balance each other out. And I think that if you're going to be so set in your ways and you don't have anyone to balance you out, people are going to get tired of that. People are going to get tired. And Yolanda says that people crave authenticity, and it's true. I mean, you want someone, yeah.
Well, what I think about is interesting about your podcast or vlog is when I've seen you disagree. It's quite interesting how you both react to each other, because you have disagreed over the times I've watched you, and there's the politeness, but the way you will listen to each other and sort of say, oh, well, yeah, okay, and you know, and I like that, rather than neither of you says, no, I am right. You know, this is how it is, you know.
But I think people get tired of that, because we don't have to be, and it's the difference between the right and the left, in my opinion, is that we don't have to be in lockstep. Just because Anne and I are super great friends and co-hosts doesn't mean that everything she said stuff where I've gone, really, Anne? Like, for real? And I've probably done it to her. But that's okay, because that's what makes it interesting. If she and I agreed and totally had the same exact thought, nobody would want to see what we have to say. That's just life.
Right. And I also, I think it's interesting because part of the Unsafe Space agreement, which I believe was written by Carter, it sounds like him. There we go. But that the Unsafe Space code that is on the website is, we are committing to creating a culture that, 1, fully respects the freedom of speech, 2, viscerally understands the distinction between the initiation of speech and the initiation of force, and upholds reason as the only valid tool of cognition, rejecting arguments based on feelings, faith, and force. And he just contradicted himself, because he said viscerally understands the distinction, which seems like an emotional response, which may be a little nitpicky. But there's a lot of this where it's like, no, reason is the only way. I'm being like, you're being really emotional right now. You're not being. But, you know, like we're whole people. We have reason, but we also have emotions, and we have other motivations for things. And to cut yourself down to reason only, that doesn't really work in a wider world, I guess. That reason is important, but it can't be your only block.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's funny you mentioned her faith, because it's kind of like, it seems like a lot of people, because this is not the first time that Carrie has had trouble with people. And it seems like someone who was an atheist and has moved to a different viewpoint, people really, really find that offensive for some reason. So the fact that, so part of the reason we decided to do this was because Carter posted the cease and desist letter on unsafespace.com. If you want to read it, there's the entire letter's up. The only thing redacted are names and addresses.
Right. And it should be mentioned that he posted this, but he posted it on Twitter with a Jussie Smollett picture, claiming that Carrie has been, you know, Karen Smollett and just going after Unsafe Space. And this was his first intro to the cease and desist letter.
Yeah.
Odd, because I don't think, well, she certainly can't sign it now.
Yeah,
that's when I was convinced that, Carter wasn't being very fair, because that's what they call an ad hominem attack, isn't it? He was directing that at her. And the thing is, it's like, well, where was the evidence for that for a start? If he'd have just said, I don't agree with what she said, I would have had more respect for his point of view. But the fact that he's just gone straight in, it wasn't like Carrie did, where it was humorous and didn't name anybody. If he'd have done it that way, it might have been a little bit more acceptable, I think. But it's the fact
the way he did it was actually really disgusting. And if I wasn't already leaning towards her point of view, he would have thrown me off of the cliff towards her, because he is being so absolutely rude. I've never seen an adult act like that. If my husband acted like that, I would be so embarrassed, because part of being a male, and I know that this viewpoint is not widely accepted by feminists and stuff, but is being a strong leader, is being an example for your family and for the people around you. And that is not an example. If my husband was doing that and my kids saw him doing that, I can't even tell you how I would feel. It is absolutely ridiculous. But once he posted all of that stuff, our friend Carlin Borisenko got in on it. She really, really hates Carrie, and so she spent.
And by friend, we use the term.
I personally have no beef with her, but I don't like the way she acted on Saturday. She did a 4-hour stream bashing Carrie and bashing Christians, and so that's not something I can get behind. And what?
And bashing our girl Tina from
that's true.
Why did she bring Tina into it again? I mean, I saw the first one she did of Tina, but why did she bring her in again? What was the reason for that?
That she had written something on Twitter about her, saying that, that she's an example of someone who, because they were talking about Christianity, it's like some people have a God-shaped hole in their soul and they'll throw anything in. And that was sort of an example with, Dr. Carlin.
I actually thought that was funny. Well, Neil, I was going to ask you not to put you on the spot, but you have said that you're not a Christian, but
I was raised as a Christian. So, so I don't know how much. Yeah, my view on it is I was raised as a Catholic because of my experiences with the church rather than God or whatever. I became very anti-religion in my 20s. Very, very.
I did that too.
The type of person. I had. If someone told me they were Christian, I probably would have turned away and walked away. But as I'm getting older, I'm kind of. I don't know what the word is. I'm becoming more of an agnostic rather than an atheist. I can't say that there is anything, and I can't say that there isn't. And maybe that's because I'm, heading nearer towards the grave, and I'm hedging bets just in case. I don't know. But now, I realize, I think, as I'm getting older, that not all Christians were the same Christians that were my problem when I was younger. And that Christians generally. There's always exceptions. Generally, are far more accepting. I think the thing is, if you understand where the Christians are coming from, or where you guys are coming from, it helps you understand the point. It's like it's this thing of I think until you understand, it can be hate the sin, love the sinner. Until you understand what that means, you probably won't accept Christianity, because you can accept people that are sinners in your religion. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean you have to accept.
We all are.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? Jesus was supposed to have loved being around sinners. You know what I mean? So the whole basis of that religion is being around sinners. So, sorry. So, what was your question, Deplorable?
That's kind of what I wanted to know, because we're a prime example of the same thing. You don't believe what we believe, but we don't have to fight about it. And
it's silly, isn't it? Because it's what you believe doesn't affect me in any way other than, there isn't any effect. I don't think me not believing has any effect on you. I don't
right.
think.
And it's like you said, it's love the sinner, hate the sin. I don't have to agree with everything that everybody does. That doesn't mean that I look down on them. It doesn't mean that, but there's some people who are so anti-Christian, and that's the vibe I get from Carter, and that's the vibe I get from Dr. K, that I feel like the fact that she became a Christian was like a personal affront to them. Like that she was kind of like a smart woman, and then they just couldn't respect her anymore because she went to this faith. And
yeah, and part of that too is, I mean, again, from my view, that it's okay, so she followed the faith and not them, but also it's like that, you know, she was friends with Carter for years, and she was agreeing with him and talking from him and learning a lot from him, because like I said, he's very analytical and a very knowledgeable guy. But also that it's like, oh, well, it's Carrie bringing stuff forward now, that as she's becoming more knowledgeable and she's getting more of a personal following, and she's, you know, no longer the little Padawan here, that she can argue back and forth with him, and she has her own ideas and she has her own how she thinks things are. And the more pushback there, I think, was a little bothersome, and someone who thinks their own reason is absolute. So
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think that is probably the majority of what the issue was. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think Emily's got a good point here. It's that you take your own viewpoints and you judge people based on them. And so if you believe certain things, that's what you're going to put on people, whether or not it's true. So that's interesting also. Oh, here's a great one just for you, Anne.
Hi, Dad.
Is that your real dad? Is he your real dad? Hello, Jeff.
But I don't know. As a Christian, not everybody has to agree with me, but I find it kind of disgusting the way that these people are like totally throwing someone aside because they say they have faith. And Anne and I.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
No,
sorry, go on. I was going to say what I find offensive about them picking on Christians, as an ex-person that would have picked on Christians, is that they leave other religions alone. The ones that have a dangerous element to them, and we all know what we're talking about here without having to say it, they would never pick on those people ever in a million years. And some of the practices of some of these other religions are actually problematic, whereas Christianity hasn't been a problem really for years. I mean, we can go back to when people were being burned at the stake or whatever and say that was a problem, but we've, you know, as a people and as a religion, it has evolved, whereas some others haven't. But I think Christians
and people can dislike Christianity for certain. I mean, you know, there's been priest sex abuse scandals and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so elites are gonna elite, and they're going to, you know, use their power over other people who are vulnerable. You know, that's
not a tenet of your religion, though, is it? If it was written into your Bible that said, you know, all priests are allowed to do this, then that would be a problem. But it's a interpretation of them, isn't it? You know,
right. And I mean, and also even within Christianity, with the, you know, it's like, well, we don't all have to agree, and that, you know, that there's, I'm sure, many different people of many different groups in Christianity in the chat that's like, okay, I may not agree with you about this, you may not agree with me about this, we can talk and understand that we're not going to agree, but there's still things that we can agree on, that there's basic tenets, or even if it is fundamental differences, I can say, look, I believe this, I know you believe that, we can still chat about it or not. It's you know, that'll be what it is.
But what I was going to say is that Anne and I both watched a good portion of the 4-hour stream that Carlin did.
Okay, and I think you watched more than I did. I wasn't playing.
Well, I did watch her at two times speed, so she sounded like a deranged chipmunk for most of it. Like I just kept like looking at it going, is this woman for real? And then I like remind myself, like, she's on super fast, like she's not, like she's a little crazy, but I don't know if she's that crazy. But she kept, when she got to the religion part, she like lost her mind. And I just think that it's that's very telling. She is very deeply offended by the fact that Carrie has become a Christian, and she's very deeply offended that Carrie has these beliefs that say things like, the church, if you choose to live in sin and you're not going to repent and turn away from your sin, her church won't accept you.
Yeah,
that's a biblical principle.
And it was.
I'm sorry, Neil.
So we all spoke at once then, sorry. But wasn't, when Carrie allegedly said that, wasn't it just a misunderstanding of something though? Wasn't it that they wouldn't accept somebody into some group as opposed to the church itself? Like a social...
I don't know specifically, but I do know that's in one of the epistles that Paul says. I think, I'm trying to remember what the circumstance was. I think it was like somebody having a relationship with someone who was their stepmother or something like that. I'm trying to remember the specific circumstance, but Paul says if you have someone who is in open and unrepentant sin and you've said, hey, you need to take care of this, and they don't, yeah, you can totally kick them out of the church. And They can come back, but it's like if it's the church says you can't do this and you're like, well, I'm going to do it anyways, then you don't need to keep that guy around.
Right. And I think that's something that people who aren't
circumstance was, but that's
right. But
background.
People who aren't in the faith don't understand that. Because you're doing something that the Bible says right here is wrong, and we talk to you about it and you don't turn away, then yes, we cannot accept you in. It doesn't mean we like you any less. It means,
yeah, so it's like me saying wanting to be part of your church, but still not wanting to believe in God, B, in other things, but still wanting to be part of your church. So you would have the right to say, well, no, you can't join the church, but you can still come round to my house and have dinner. You know, it'd be the same as that, wouldn't it? It's like, I would understand that. It's like you could still be friends with someone.
Oh, sorry. I need to take care of the dog before I can make a point. 1 second, sorry.
Do you want her opinion to be heard?
Her dog loves to be heard, especially if the mailman or the neighbors happen to walk by. Always, always, always. But the thing, what I got from Carlin, she was so upset about Carrie's church and what they believe. And Carlin is talking about how she's had the same faith for 20 years and she's done all of these things to understand her faith and to whatever. And but she was so put off by what Carrie's church was doing that I don't understand. If you have your faith and you are strong in it and you believe what you are saying as your faith, what I'm doing shouldn't matter. What Carrie's doing shouldn't matter. But the fact that she got her panties all in a twist because Carrie's church said that, I don't understand.
Well, it reminded me. Sorry, go on. I just saying it reminded me, not to harp on about it again, but the Christy Glass thing. It reminded me of that, where Adela went for Christy Glass's religion and her God being evil and all that kind of thing. It reminded me of that. But what is Carlin's religion? What is she? What denomination?
She's not. She believes in the sun and Mother Moon, and she's done shaman things.
It's not before, and this is something that happened at least a month ago, probably more, because we were talking about like, oh, maybe we should mention this, maybe not.
We didn't, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because Teresa's just said, please don't talk about her panties. I'm not sure what that refers to.
Because I mentioned Carlin's panties being in the twist, and I thought of that too when I said it. Sorry, Teresa.
No, but she got into trouble a little bit ago, and it was enough to get her. And we talked about when it happened that Carlin is famous in the knitting world is that she had a viral Medium article talking about how she had been her eyes had been opened a bit to social justice bullying by the knitting controversy. And then she went to a Trump rally and realized that Trumpers weren't so bad. Okay. And that was a huge viral video. And she got on different shows for this. She got on Glenn Beck. She was with the Walk Away campaign. And some people have talked about that later too. But that was her big thing. And she had a PragerU video that she did about this situation. That's okay. Right, yeah. And PragerU recently took her video down because she said in her belief system that basically all of our spiritual selves have decided what our destinies have been before we are born. And then before we are born, and then we have to fulfill our destiny. So basically, if you fulfill our destiny, then you go to heaven. But she specifically used the examples of victims of the Holocaust and Hitler. So they all go to heaven. And she specifically said that. And then afterwards she said, oh, well, I'm just saying that that's what Christians sound like when they evangelize. And I'm sitting here like, no.
So what would be the purpose of that, though? So what would be the purpose of them having to live that life and die that death or do that? What would that be?
From what I understand, there's really no purpose. You can do whatever you want to, and you're all going to go to heaven, and it's all fine. And that's a personal belief. I don't agree with it, but that's fine. Believe it.
Crystals and everything else, but also she's allowed to do that. But she said in the more recent video about Carrie, she specifically said, because I wrote this down, that there's no right or wrong, no good or bad, only God's love. And I'm sorry. I mean, okay, so God in that context, I guess, could mean any God and not the Christian God. But I say that that there's books in the Bible because God said things to people and he thought he should know them, that they should know them, including don't do bad stuff.
Right. So if people can do whatever, then why should we mad at Carrie? I'm just saying, if people can do whatever they want to, why?
So does that mean you can say whatever you want to about Carlin as well?
No, she'll cancel us.
She'll block you.
Be prepared.
But does that not mean, though, then she's going against her religion? You know, because surely everybody's allowed to do everything they want to do.
Exactly.
Quite frankly, it's all about her and nothing else matters.
I think Anna's got it right there. So anyway, we've gone slightly off topic, but
yeah, we have, haven't we?
So on Friday, a cease and desist letter surfaced.
Right. Also, it should be mentioned with the cease and desist letter that it was postmarked the 5th. And personal confirmation with Carrie, they said that she only had till the 7th to reply, and she only got it on the 7th.
Nice.
So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's how lawyers work.
There were some interesting things in that letter, though. I don't know how much you read into it, but one of the things was about, I believe they insinuate in the letter that Carrie had accused Carter of accessing her emails.
Yes.
Well, then in the letter, he kind of acknowledges that he did that. He gives his reason why he did it. But my first thought was, well, what? Why, even if you're the boss, why were you doing that? You know, why were you looking in her emails? You know, even if it was to upgrade something, I think is what he said it was, to upgrade some software. You wouldn't do that. I would talk to the person and say, oh, we need to do a software upgrade. This is what you've got to do. Or if you prefer, I'll do it for you, but it means me logging into your email. You know, that would be the courtesy rather than just doing it. So I can understand, even if what Carrie, I don't know exactly what Carrie said about that, but even if it wasn't necessarily true, I can understand why she would be upset about somebody going in her email, you know, and he admits that.
And I'm pretty sure that in the letter it says something about, like, you allege that he deleted emails, which isn't true, but then like 2 sentences later it says, but he did delete emails in accordance with this task that he was doing.
Oh, so, yes, the credit card. He deleted something with the credit card in it.
Right,
so,
but
so
you,
yeah, so
in this sentence you said no, in this sentence you said yes, and that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it made me want to ask a lot more questions than it kind of, you know, should have resolved, I think. Have we lost Anne? Has Anne disappeared?
She probably went to get the dog. This is normal, so don't worry about it. But yeah, but the letter was really, really strange, and it also talked about how Carrie said that she was a part owner of Unsafe Space, but then he said she wasn't. But then he admitted she owned 10%. But then he said, well, she's not going to get her 10% because of this. And it's all it's a lot of doublespeak. It's a lot of like, well, you know,
that 10%.
Well, and
I don't even think lawyers wrote letters like that. Like, I thought that they kind of stuck to the facts. It was very rambling for a lawyer letter, in my opinion. But that's just me.
That's very true. But also that I don't know if you said this, sorry, when I stepped out, but if it's like, oh, well, even if he did delete the emails, well, she could have printed them. Like, well, she
coulda, woulda, shoulda. Yeah,
it's like, well, it doesn't matter if I,
Yeah, just going back to that 10%
emails. Well, she deleted the emails. Well, she could have printed them. So really, no harm, no foul.
That's goofy.
Yeah, sorry, going back to the 10% thing, the first thing I thought when I read that, and this is just my opinion, was, this is getting to the crux of the matter. He doesn't want her to get the 10% ongoing. So is this a way of trying to cause a drama that will, exclude her from that in some way?
Yeah.
It's because he also talks about how much money she's received already, and then goes into a bit of a sob story about how he hasn't received his money that he's owed.
So Anne and I are small potatoes. I've said that a lot. But between super chats and ad revenue and different things that they get, I cannot imagine that they did not make money. I know what Anne and I make off of our show with 2 sponsors and some Google ads, and we are by no means rolling in the dough, but we do get a little bit of money. And we have, like I said, we got the 2,000 followers. They had 40,000. Even through videos, even through the ads, I cannot imagine that he was not bringing in some sort of money. Just based on what I know, like we've had a couple videos that got like a few thousand views, and I know how much money we made off of them. And if you have videos that do that every week, you are making money. I don't care who you are. So,
and not to mention that they did, Subscribe Star, and I don't know if they were still on Patreon, but they had shirts and things.
They had locals. I'm still wearing my shirt, my Knit Dangerously shirt. Like I probably should forsake it because it says Unsafe Space, but it's my Knit Dangerously shirt, and I love it. So, what are you gonna do?
Carrie will come out with some new ones.
Yeah, I hope so. But so that part of it really seems disingenuous to me too, because even based on, like I said, we've had like 2 videos that have actually done pretty well out of the 100 and something we put on our channel. And
only 2. I'm sure you've had a few more than that.
Well, we've had a few that have gotten attention. So out of those, you make a couple $100 off of Google. So you can't tell me with all of your videos hitting those numbers consistently, you're not making money. It just seems like a big fat lie, but that's just me. Mm-hmm. Rachel wants to know who published the letter. That would be Carter. He put it on unsafespace.com if you want to go read it. He sounds like a little boy who never was taught that people don't have to play with him if they don't want to. Yeah, and he should have gotten that lesson.
That you can go ahead and read. And
Maria says the letter sounds. It was written by Carter, not a lawyer. That's where I was going with that, Maria. Exactly.
Yeah.
But
the other thing I thought was odd. Sorry, I keep over.
No, go on, Neil.
The other thing I thought was odd, and I can't find it in the letter now. I've got it here, but when you're just looking at something, it's all just words. Was the bit about that Carrie has to tell him who she has said these things to. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know about in American law versus British law, but I don't think that is something that somebody can be forced to do, can they? Because surely that's him trying to get evidence rather than.
Yeah, it seems to me like if this is going to actually be a case, that would be found out during discovery. But I can't see him really wanting to do it because, like I said, and this is just me speculating. I know nothing. I am nobody. I think there's a lot more money than he's claiming. And does he really want them going poking around looking?
Yeah, because also he's talking about them having to. She can't delete or remove any of her files and electronic devices, which I find very strange at this point.
Yeah, he locked her out of her accounts, and she, I don't know if there were things in there that she needed, but that Anne and I actually have a shared account, because if you send an email to politically incorrect knitters, it's honestly probably Anne who's going to read it. Sometimes I remember to check it, but usually I don't. But
one day Anne's going to lock you out of that account.
but it's kind of that's what I was getting at. Like, if we have ownership of that account, and if something happened and we stopped talking and she locked me out, there is information in there that I would need. And so that would be messed up. And so the whole like locking her out of her stuff and everything seems very messed up. I don't know.
Yeah. And also with the kind of attack on Carrie, the fun new anime, but that it's you're Jussie Smollett. But Neil, you've been accused of this with your Blocked magazine. It's like, oh, well, you're just making fun of people and you're just being horrible to people, but you use their own words. Yeah. Carter is not linking to anything she said. He's not using quotes. Yeah. He doesn't say this video clip or this email or this text conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because if that had been me, let's say if I was in business with either of you or both of you, and one or both of you were saying those things that Carrie is allegedly saying about Carter, I would definitely show the evidence that would prove otherwise. And I wouldn't put an opinion. I would say, well, this is it. This is the words, So that's where I find that Carter is a little bit.
If you're in the right, you have evidence.
Yes.
If you have something that says that she was a 10% partner, then why aren't you posting a photo of it saying she has a 10% partner? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, Anne and I are small potatoes, but we have an agreement to an extent of who gets what out of this, because that's just business. As much as we adore each other, you have to do. But it's true. It's and if you don't have that to show and you're just trying to smear someone, I don't buy a lot of it.
I mean, my limited experience, I've only been in this game for a while, but what I've noticed so far is that the people that are screaming the loudest are almost always the ones with either something to hide or they're trying to stop the other person from saying something that is going to hurt them. So, for example, like I'll keep going on about this, but sorry, but like Christy Glass went very quiet. She didn't feel the need to say anything. And Carrie now, I think, is doing something similar. She doesn't feel the need to say much. Whereas the person that is throwing the accusations and the name calling is Carter. So my instinct is now to immediately believe Carrie. I know I would have to see evidence as well to absolutely 100% say that she is in the right. But my instinct is saying, no, she's the one who's dealing with this in a little bit more of a classy way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a bit
like I said, that humor,
yes.
she dealt with it, but very. She didn't just go and say, hey, Carter's a giant jerk face and he stole my company. She just kind of like put it out there a little bit because people are going to ask. And that's, yeah.
And the other thing is, the amount of work that she's been doing. I mean, she has been working hard since she set up her own. She's been doing interviews every couple of days with some really big names. I mean, I don't know how well Constantine, who she interviewed this evening. I mean, he's a big name in Britain. We all know who he is. And she also interviewed, I've forgotten his name now. Is it Jack Buckby was his name? Now everybody knows he's infamous in this country. I was really impressed that she got him to interview. I mean, I know these are British names that you guys in America won't know, but I don't know whether the people who are American are as big in America as the British people have been. I don't know. So when she interviewed me, it's like, why is she interviewing me? She's
that's how I felt.
So I think she's going to do really well, and I think she's proven on her own that she was the force behind that show. Really,
I find it suspicious that Carrie announced that she had the gentleman on today that she had, and then all of a sudden that letter came. I think that Carter is a little bit sore because she's getting these people that maybe he wanted, but the vibe I always got from them was that she was the friendly one. So my guess is that she is the one who has the relationships with people. And now that he's gotten rid of her, he doesn't know what to do because he did not spend the time fostering relationships. And now people are not coming as easily because he didn't realize what she was doing for him. That's a lot of it is my guess.
And maybe he tasked Carrie with actually approaching the people to go on the show in the first place because he knew
it could be, friendly. But she's very friendly and open, and I would prefer to talk to her 9 times out of 10. I mean, for real, 10 times out of 10 because
Well, and also that, again, there's the kind of ideological difference where Carter is, I disagree with you and I'm going to argue my point. And Carrie is, I disagree with you. Let's have dinner. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But she has, and she puts on her profile that founder of civility dinners, that the entire point is to sit down and to talk with a group of people with different perspectives. And I learn from you and you learn from me, and we may still disagree at the end, but at least we've heard each other's points. And maybe we do agree at the end. Maybe one comes closer to the other. Let's just talk. So
I'll tell you what we've not mentioned is the guy, what was he called? Jason.
Yes.
Oh yeah, somebody asked about that in chat. So there's this guy, Curist.
Quirst?
Yep.
I don't know.
Quirst, whatever. We call him Q. Jason.
QRIIST is the username. But this is also interesting because it's also, I think, a part of the blow up, and probably should have been mentioned. That on April 8th, she made a statement about him. Here, and let me pull it up. Okay. So Carrie Smith on her Twitter, necessary to say this now, Quirst, aka Jason Close, was a paid employee of Unsafe Space. I did not hire him, and I didn't find out about this or his past until February 18th, at which point I messaged Carter to find out if he knew. I ceased to be a partner and co-owner there 3 days later. Okay, and it's a thread on Twitter that she reposted by a guy called Shoe on Head. That PSA, the user Quirst, is a person who tried to break into Tim Pool's house at 4 a.m. He also is a convicted pedophile / child rapist. He's trying to get close with other YouTubers now. And the man obviously has issues with parasocial relationships. So be warned, proof and thread. Okay. And this guy has been convicted. I think he got 2 years. Here, let me bring that up to in military jail for child pornography, and has been accused of rape of a minor. So this is some bad stuff, and not okay. So Carter has said, well, he's fired now and he's gone now, so that's good. But he had said before that those were false claims.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
He said that before, that they were false claims, and he also said, "Oh, he is only a volunteer. We don't vet all our volunteers." And then Carrie came out a couple days later saying, no, actually, he was a paid staff person. So,
but even let's say if he was an unvetted volunteer, even still, you would immediately say, "Oh, we didn't know."
Peace.
He's immediately been fired or whatever. You don't even need to apologize. But
yeah,
he was,
or you don't even try to mollify that down a little bit.
No.
Well, you're like, I found out he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some situations where people don't want you to be wishy-washy. Mm-hmm. Pedophile is generally looked on, no matter where you stand on the political spectrum, or that's not something we do. That's not okay. And
the problem that we're facing, though, with our friends on the left is, especially with the LGBTQ, blah, 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 to the end of time, is, they want they're calling them minor attracted persons, aren't they now? And when the whole trans thing has settled down, mark my words, the next thing will be the minor attracted person.
Absolutely.
They will want them to be brought into the fold.
Yeah.
And it will happen.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you.
Where we'll be in the wrong for saying what we're saying now. We'll be the ones that have the police at the door knocking on because we didn't want a paedophile working with us or whatever. So it's. But I was surprised. I'm surprised to hear that Carter sort of kind of defended him, because that's kind of defending him in a way.
He very much did defend him, and
even if
he was.
Sorry,
Ann, but he was on the Discord channel until at least the 30th of March, which tells you that they knew for at least 6 weeks and did nothing. Whether or not he was paid is moot. They did nothing.
One thing I wanted to ask about him as well is, I think I asked it before we started, but is 2 years in a military prison, does that mean, would that indicate that the crime was actually quite serious in terms of having child pornography, or would that just be a standard thing to get?
I think he was in the military when it happened, which is why it went that way. Yeah. So I don't know the difference. And if anybody in chat does.
Would he still have to sign? Do you have like a sex offenders register if it happened in the military?
Yeah.
Would he still have to do that?
I would assume that, yeah, there are certain levels of sex offender where you have to, if you're like a level 2 or 3 or something, you have to tell people where you are and stuff.
Right. And also part of this is, oh gosh, anyways, it's bad. But yeah, even if Carter was, like, oh, well, obviously, this Kursk guy is bad, but if he was even trying to underplay this for the sake of his own reputation, okay, that's not good either. Like,
and he's trying to court the conservatives, and we don't do it. You say you mess with a child, we are done with you. I don't care. Don't like. I'm a Christian. I believe in tolerance and love and blah blah. No, there are some things that are not okay, and that's one of them.
For me, it would be to the point of conviction. So I would think, okay, they're innocent until proven guilty.
And he was.
There is that possibility, but he was convicted of the first. We don't know whether he was convicted of the other thing, though, do we? Because he was accused of something else as well. So I suppose we have to say allegedly with that one. That one was a more serious accusation, I believe.
Right.
But we don't know what happened there.
Right. I don't know if he was convicted of that one yet. But an interesting thing, though, is that he was chatting in Carlin's live stream about Carrie. And he had said that Carrie didn't even give me a chance. She didn't say this to my face. That he lost all respect for Carrie. I'm like, I don't want to say this to your face. But that this is a wrongful conviction and defamation, and she's using defamation against me to be defamation against Unsafe Space. Okay, and also, this guy claims wrongful conviction, but that 2 different women set him up for these wrongful convictions.
Well, and if it's a wrongful conviction, I mean, isn't there proof that you're going through appeals and different things? Like, I'm not a lawyer. I've never pretended to be one. I've never played one on TV, but there's got to be some sort of information.
Yeah, let's pretend it was a wrongful conviction just for a moment.
Right.
He was still convicted, which means it isn't slander or libel for Carrie or anyone else to describe him as a convicted child porn possessor or whatever the charge was. So even if it was wrongful conviction, until that conviction is overturned, it's legally okay to describe that person as that thing.
And I don't know how it works
in that place,
I don't know how it works in other countries, but here in the US, you can go to the child sex offender registry and put in somebody's name. And if they were convicted, you see the information. There was a gentleman down the road from me who happened to be one. And so I went and found out all about what he had done because I have kids and I needed to know who was around. And lucky for us, we can do that. And so we know that he's in the database. It's not just pretend.
I think you have to go to the police, here, and you have to give your reasons why you would need to know, I think.
Dude, I'm on an email list. If anybody moves within like 3 miles of my house, I get an email about it. So I'm good to go.
But the thing is too, so hypothetically you have this guy and it's not as if the justice system is perfect and you think he was wrongly convicted. It's really weird that he would be wrongly convicted twice or accused.
What a coincidence.
Or military said it. That's weird. But also that he showed up in the middle of the night to Tim Pool's house to tell his story and Tim Pool called the police. Okay, that's all. And he's like, oh, well, that was just an error in judgment. I'm so sorry. Call me back. Like, no, that's not.
It happens all the time, Anne. We all do that. Surely you know that.
Neil, if I come to your house in the middle of the night, are you going to call the cops on me? Probably, because what the hell am I doing in England? But
I'd let you in. If you came to my house, it'd obviously be an emergency. I would let you in, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just, I don't know. And some of the stuff, I don't know, Anne. So what else did we miss?
Is it because of this this guy, this Jason or whatever his name is, accusing Carrie of slandering him? Is that why he's connected to this story then with Carlin?
Well,
I think it's just I think they were all kind of going on simultaneously. I think the breakdown of Unsafe Space was happening and then this information came to light, and I think Carter knew and he didn't tell her.
the breakdown of, I think the Carter Carrie split was going to happen anyways, and it probably would have been eventually nasty anyways. But once you throw in a pedophile in your organization there, it's much more nasty.
It's like putting gas on a match on gasoline.
Like, was this person horrible to this person, or was this person horrible back? And was there some business deals? Was there some deleted emails? But somebody hired a pedophile and then didn't know until later, and then was a little wishy-washy about firing them. Okay?
That's not a little wishy-washy. Kind of that's super duper wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Did Carlin comment on it when that guy posted?
Well,
Did
Carlin
she make
was saying, like, you know, if this stuff is true, I don't condone that. But
oh, so she's being careful.
She'll go to heaven. Sorry.
Yeah, because obviously that was his purpose in life, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh,
yes, because obviously. Oh. And did you get to the part where she was talking about giving Carter the Getter account?
No, but I know that she had grabbed the name of Unsafe Space on the Getter account originally.
I just want to know who does that.
Crappy things about Carrie. And
what is wrong with somebody that you get a different business's account to mock one of their employees? Mm-hmm. Like, that's a level of like crazy I've never come across in my days.
There's a lot of that. Oh, and also part of this, I mean, why not include anybody? That also part of this is it's Carrie who is awful, and it is Mikey Harlow who is awful. And Carlin and Mike Harlow used to be big buds, and then he's like, yeah, no more. And he did a video about that. So check out his channel too. It's a good video. But yeah, that is, oh, well, both of you now are horrible people, where I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. You're bad. You're crazy. It's you. And also all this throwing around by both Carter and Carlin of, it's like, oh, well, you have borderline personality disorder. Oh, well, she has borderline personality disorder. I'm like, what are y'all doing diagnosing people? That's not cool.
I've never come across as many people with borderline personality disorder as I have this weekend. There's been like 7 people accused of it. Like, what?
Seriously. Like,
half of the knitting world has a borderline personality.
We probably do. That's probably the issue.
The first sign, do they have knitting needles in their hands? Like, or going down that path?
No, but and that's the other thing I was going to say about Carlin is people, when things are going on, look at the source. Carlin has issues with Mikey. She has issues with Carrie. She got asked to leave Walkaway. She had that weird hotel thing that happened.
Yeah.
So where's the common denominator? It's not Carrie. Carrie seems to have just been one of the people that were caught in the crossfire, you know? Like,
and also there was this really sorry, now we're getting into pure gossip, but there are screen caps. There was this Twitter thing from a guy named Kieran White, and it was a private text conversation between him and Carlin, and that was really weird too. But
interesting.
Yeah. So yeah,
I haven't seen that one.
So you might want to sit down for reading that one. But,
oh geez, you'll have to send it to me.
Yeah, I want a copy of that as well.
Anyways, brief summary, because can't tease like that, but basically she sent him a message saying, I'm coming on to you, but I'm gonna stay in my marriage. And then it was this long thing of like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I hate you, this is horrible, why aren't you calling me? And yeah.
I heard her saying something about adultery, and I didn't know what that was. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah. Okay, let's throw an allegedly on all of that, because Carlin is claiming that he doctored the messages and everything else and this and that.
People have time for that.
But as far as we have seen from what has been posted on Twitter, it's very weird.
So, breakdown of what happened. Carter and Carrie broke up. Carter posted the cease and desist letter on Unsafe Space. Now he appears to be buddy-buddy with Carlin. Carlin, because she just gave him the Getter back, because now that Carrie's gone, she doesn't hate him and it's not her fault. And everything is Carrie's fault according to them, and we don't necessarily agree. So
right. And it's also that I agree
with Sandra. Yeah.
Yes.
And part of it is that Carter is claiming that he owns the name Deprogrammed, and that's part of the thing that I think is just so his sort of misunderstanding about what's happening here. It's like, look, wherever Carrie is, people will go because she likes Carrie, even if you're like, oh well, she can't say it's
she can't beat the program, so whatever, she's going to move on.
Then it's going to be a slight setback that it's going to be more difficult for people to Google her, I guess. But beyond that, she can throw up a new title there, and people will still want
change
to
a letter. Just change one letter, she'll be all right.
And she's got friends too. I mean, the Geeks and Gamers episode had tons of people watching it, so all she needs is to let her friends know, and she'll be fine.
Yeah,
and if he's worried about a name,
when she's not on, so yeah.
But is there anything we missed, guys? Because we've gone like an hour, more than an hour.
Since this happened, has anyone, because I've not heard of her, because I did contact her, I sort of reached out, but I've not heard anything. I know she was doing a video with her husband, wasn't she, where she was playing a ghost or something?
Yeah, they were making a music video. I don't know what's,
But I just wondered if anyone had spoke to her. Have either of you had any contact?
Well, Anne talked to her because we wanted to let her know we were doing this, and
so
we didn't want to surprise her, but
that this was, we were talking about going on and talking about this, like I said, because Unsafe Space, a lot of knitting connections. But I wanted to kind of make sure that's like, okay, I mean, it's public knowledge. We could go out and talk about it, but because Carrie, I mean, she's written a couple comments about it and she's mentioned it a couple times, but it's like, if she would say, no, guys, don't talk about this, don't bring it up or anything, then we would have been like, okay, if Carrie doesn't want to talk about it, then good.
Yeah.
But yeah. And
no, we haven't really talked to her about it.
We didn't extend that to Carter, which I guess might have been bad of us. But
here's the thing: what you do is you just say, Carter, if you're watching, please contact one of us for your rebuttal.
Absolutely, we'd love to have you on.
To write about this if you would like, if you want it in the magazine. But I can't do that unless Carrie and Carter gives me their opinions, And you could have one on either side of the magazine, and people can make their own mind up. I'd be happy to talk to them about it. I feel really bad for Carrie though, because the thing is, as I said before, when I only met her once on the video, but she was so genuine, and I'm a pretty good, I think, judge of character. I usually can sense almost straight away whether someone's okay, and she was completely the same all the way through. I know I'm repeating myself now, and she was just very genuine. And I knew she there was no side to her. I couldn't feel any kind of side that I wouldn't have liked, so I just feel really bad for her that this has happened. I don't know. And I've never met Carter, so I can't comment on apart from what I've seen.
Right. Well, guys, I think
is Holly Johnson, is that the real Holly Johnson, as in the Frankie Goes to Hollywood Holly Johnson? I keep seeing this comment from Holly Johnson. I think, is that really Holly Johnson?
That must be a British reference. Sorry, man.
Do you not know Frankie Goes to Hollywood? Oh, it's probably your age. Yeah, in the 80s, they were a huge band in the 80s. They did Two Tribes and Relax. I don't know if you know those songs.
I know that one.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not going to sing it on a live, but yes, I know that one.
I'm showing my age now, Anna. Sorry.
I've got 10 years on Anne, which is why I know it. I was an 80s baby, so.
Were you? Oh, you were a baby in the 80s.
Yeah, right. I was born in the 80s, so.
I was going to say I was an 80s child, but I was a 60s baby. So obviously I was, doing
there we go.
No, a little different.
Finally, Therese gave me some context clues. She says, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
You know that song now? Yes.
I know. All right.
Therese knows. Yeah. Relax. Don't do it. Yeah. T-shirts that said Frankie says relax. Yeah.
All right. We've gone long. I have to go. My kids have been monsters today, so I have to go deal with them. They've come in like 3 times since we started, so but thanks for joining us, Neil, for this.
You're welcome anytime.
And we'll keep you up to date. If something new happens, we'll let you know. And Anne and I have Cody Schlegel on this week, so make sure you check out our author buddy who gives away all the pretty books on our show. So, yeah, the guy who wrote Odyssey Tale.
You know the book that Anne? I saw the book you posted, and there was some yarn with it. Who did the yarn?
Blue Sky Fibers. They're very popular.
It was really nice. That.
Yes, but yeah,
I want that.
Well, check out. Not to promote, but the giveaway for this yarn and Cody Schlegel's book, it's still on my Instagram, and comment on last week's episode too. And Neil, if you win, I will send it to England. Don't worry. I'm not going to be one of those, only US need apply. No, man. I am equal opportunity.
People would think it was fixed. That's why I can't enter any competitions anymore, because I'm worried people will say, it was so obviously fixed that,
that is true.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. And like I said, if there's anything new we got to talk about, we'll get the band back together and we'll talk about it. So, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.